And it is Sunday, October 11th, 2020, the 10th birthday of my boys, Charles and Philip. Our twin boys were born 10 years ago today. Clearly, that was the day our world changed. Kids number 5 and 6 joined that extended Blade family. And welcome to the Blade Family Podcast. Today, I'll be talking to Mr. Art Gonzalez. He's class of 1988, and he is currently our head of guidance at East Bakersfield High School. Art considers himself a grinder. He's a hard worker. And again, he's yet another person we wouldn't be able to do the things we're able to do without. He's absolutely integral part of what we do in the Blade family. So I hope you enjoy catching up with Mr. Gonzalez today. All right, everybody. So as I said, we've got a good one today. It's Sunday, October 11th, the 10th birthday of my twins, and I've got Mr. Art Gonzalez, our head counselor, on the phone with me. Good afternoon, Art. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Holland. Thank you, and I'm glad that you're giving up a couple minutes from your kids. So, hopefully we can make this fun for them too to hear.
Oh, so they'll love it. They love listening to this stuff too. So it's gonna be a blast. I'm so happy that you were able to make some time to talk with us. I think you've got a lot to share. So how are you and your family doing right now with COVID still raging? Are you guys doing okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's a new time, as we all know. For me, we're fortunate enough to live in a place big enough to be able to solidify everybody in their own room. My wife, she's working back of the one of the rooms, made her room into kids. We're in each corner. So, but other than that, I mean, we're fine. I think it's done a lot for us. It's brought the family unity, and that's one of the things that we talk about at East High as family. So you learn, we're learning to work and motivate each other. So it's been good.
Okay.
We're fine. We're healthy. So, God bless.
Now, the interesting thing about you, Mr. Gonzalez, where did your wife go to high school?
Thanks for asking. My wife is a graduate of East Bakersfield High School in 1992.
Right. So, to remind everybody, for the family reunion, I reach out to staff members who went to East, and you married an East High graduate as well. And then how many kids do you have, Mr. Gonzalez?
I have 2 kids. Funny story. I kind of feel like I know where we're going with this.
Yeah,
we're talking about family, and I think this is a great start for me because our acronym is family.
Right.
You get that, and what I tell people is, if you know me, I came back to East High about 11 years ago, and I remember when we were building the football stadium. We were renovating it and getting ready to open it up.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Vasquez and Mr. Van Horn and a few others were talking about beautifying the football field. You get that? And I believe at that time they were selling bricks.
Right.
Not sure if you remember that.
Yeah, they're still out by the portico leading down to the field.
Correct. So talking about family, if you guys ever get a chance, you'll see that I have my family, I always tell people it's a family tradition, for us. We bleed blue and red. So I'm the class of 1988,
mm-hmm.
East Bakersfield High School. My wife is the class of 1992.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's the class of 2018.
I was lucky enough to be her principal, yeah.
Yeah, my son is a current senior who will be a class of 2021.
That's right.
But the moral to the story that I tell people is I love this because when you say that, that's the first thing that comes to me, the foundation that was built there. I bought a brick. My son was about 6 years old, and I knew my kids were going to be Blades.
Right.
Okay, so that's why I said I had already built our stone with my daughter in class of 2018. My son, 2021. So if you go there today, just walk out there. You'll see it's right by the Rose Garden, on the side of the walkway, and you'll find the Gonzalez family. And that's what you So
cool.
I knew from day one when my kids were born, they were going to East High.
That is so cool.
So
That's what
yeah,
that
that's
family
my
is all
family
about.
tradition.
That's awesome.
You know, tell people. Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
we're hoping that our grandchildren one day, if they're in town, they're going to be Blades.
Yeah, I kind of hope the same
You
thing
know,
too.
and
yeah,
my daughter, you know, she wants to be a teacher, and she really wants to work at her old alma mater. You know, so I'm excited. I can't wait. You know, hopefully I'm still there to be able to guide her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and hopefully become a teacher one day at East High.
That's awesome. I
So
can't
there's
wait.
been some
I'm excited.
good values.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you've had a chance to listen to the other podcasts, so you know I'm going to ask you 5 questions. The family focus 5. The first one I think is pretty cool. I like to hear the reflection that goes into this. So the first question, Mr. Gonzalez, is what teacher or staff member made the biggest difference in your EB high school education? And I'm talking about, I'm talking about a person, not a class. So if I misstated that, I apologize. But I'm asking what teacher or staff member made the biggest difference? Not a class, a person. Yeah.
For me, you know, it's a great question to ask because I think I was influenced by quite a few, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on what the situation was. I can tell you for sports wise, I had Coach Dominguez, you know, who was a basketball coach,
mm-hmm.
Coach Gonzalez, Rudy Gonzalez, wrestling coach, Coach Jeff Crosby, who was my baseball coach, Mr. Eldridge, who was a basketball coach as well, and my algebra teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I had Mr. George Mawson. He was an English teacher. At that time, Miss Vicky Spanels was his student teacher.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And one guy, and Mr. Britton, who was a science teacher, who is now, I think, part of our region for Avid.
Okay, yeah.
But, you know, that's just to name a few, but I got to tell you, there's too many to count. The one that people will remember is Mr. Lee Vasquez. You know, Lee was a football coach and the independent study teacher.
Okay.
But, you know, the motivation for me with him is if you guys ever had a chance to meet Mr. Vasquez or know him, he was such a great mentor, a great leader, a great communicator.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that he brought that was different from people, he believed in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got to pause it a little bit because, you know, you get sentimental.
Right.
Knowing that you have those mentors with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know.
But yeah, Lee also, you know, again, like I said, I mean, he was an up-and-coming guy.
Right.
And I can remember, one of the things that I remember, we talked about this not too long ago. You know, I remember when, you know, back then, when you get hired, what's your goal in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What do you want people to remember you by?
Right.
And I remember learning him when he was just coming from a different job site. The guy was he was so easygoing and very compassionate, you know, and when you look at that, you just go, I had the privilege of working for him for 20 years,
mm-hmm.
and I can tell you, that man was an inspiration to many people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you say his name, and that's what they remember. So for that, you know, I surrounded myself around great mentors. I had a lot of people believe in me, but Mr. Vasquez just went that extra mile.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of who I would say was my biggest difference at East High School.
That's cool.
You know?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Art. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, you know, lately I've talked a lot about Mr. Vasquez in the fireside chats and whatnot. So, you know, clearly he's inspiration to me too, so I can totally understand that answer. And I didn't meet Mr. Vasquez until I was an adult, and he was still inspirational for me. So, second question, it's kind of a follow-up to this. What was your favorite class at EB?
Wow. Well, that's, you know, again, I'll kind of lead into this, I believe, but I want to kind of stick with the prompts of the questions. But I can tell stories as we go, and I believe that at the end, I'll I'll be able to summarize how all this works together.
Okay.
You get that?
Okay.
So for me, as a sports guy, I love PE, but my favorite class was marine fitness. It taught me the discipline, and it taught me to differentiate. You get that? So back in the 80s, we had marine fitness, and Mr. Dominguez was the marine fitness coach.
Okay.
So those were the two that I enjoyed the most because I knew that I was going to get some workout in, and it would free my mind.
Hey.
But for core classes, I have to tell you, I liked science and history. I've always loved history because, I always like to know where I come from.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah, I tell you, there's too many in subjects. I'm not a guy who could say I can only name 5 in one hand or, so forth. Along the way, my path for the 4 years, I just had favorite things, and I enjoyed every piece of it. That's the legacy of East High. Teachers cared,
right.
And they still do today.
Yeah.
They still do today. So, but yeah.
Okay. Marine fitness. Okay. This is the first time I've ever heard of that class, I'm going to be honest. So.
Marine fitness, huh?
Yeah, it's the first time.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I can share a little bit from there. I don't want to kind of have a sidebar, but it's funny. Mr. Dominguez was actually my marine fitness teacher. We had it was a kind of a circuit training. I don't remember if you recall that.
Uh-huh.
There were some monies out there that we had stations where you have different areas at our school. I remember I believe it was 86 or 87. We might have got a grant where we had like a push-up station, a squatting station, all these different stations. So It was kind of a, what would you call it? It was like a PE circuit training that you moved, and it was all throughout the school.
Huh.
But that's one thing that a lot of people don't remember. I wish I knew the name of it, but I do believe that it was like a circuit training style.
Okay.
And I don't know if we got that through the marine fitness program, that they gave us money or there was a grant written, and because we're a part of that, we had our stations. But yeah, that was something that when I go in there, I'm always trying to find any of the cement, concretes, or slabs anywhere where this equipment used to be, but I don't see them anywhere.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So question number 3. This one is interesting. And we get usually everybody's, third or fourth high school memory when I ask this question. Some of them are inappropriate for my podcast, but I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite high school memory?
Well, that's a tough one, but for me, I would have to say, if you guys don't know, I was a 3-sport athlete. I played football, wrestled, and baseball. And I know most people would say, oh, well, I know he's going to choose something with baseball. No.
I'm going to guess you're going to pick something with wrestling.
No. My favorite memory was playing football at BC under the stadium lights.
Oh, okay.
You got to remember, when I was in high school, we didn't have a football field.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So when we're out there, when you, myself, and Johnny and all of us are out there watching the football games on Friday, I reminisce. I don't even know how to take that in, because when I look at our snack bar, that used to be trees out there, and we used to take pictures back there. You get that? Mm-hmm. So to let be on the turf there, living it and not playing in it, it's really different. And I'm trying to grasp the feel, and that to me is more family tradition because the people are so close to you.
Right.
And if you ever seen football stadium at BC, the crowd looks like little ants.
Right.
But my favorite memory was I can always say that I might not have played for BC, but I sure played under the lights.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, these next couple of questions are the ones I ask that I hope make an impact for our students, our current students, or kids that we'll have in the future, my kids and that sort of thing. What is one piece of advice that you would go back and give yourself right before you started your freshman year?
I have to pause a little bit because, I got to think of my time, the time lapse between then and now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the first thing I want people to know is that I have no regrets, but I will tell them, be who you are and finish what you start. That would be my freshman year. And what advice for kids now?
Mm-hmm.
Maintain what you have and work to get more. That's one of the hardest things is kids want more without maintaining what they have.
Mm-hmm.
You get that? So that's kind of my philosophy. Appreciate what you have today, but learn how to grow for tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that growth mindset is something you're huge about. So that makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Okay. And the final question, hopefully this one's for everybody in our listening audience. What does it mean to you to be a Blade?
Woo! Well, as you know, we started off the podcast by talking about family. You asked me about my wife and my kids. And that's what it is, family. And I believe anybody who understands the definition of family is, we're not always going to get along. But we know that one of the things that you have to understand is I'm big, and I was so excited when we used the acronym family, But family, working with others, caring about our community, helping others to gain growth and becoming a productive individual.
Right.
For oneself and for our future Blades.
Right.
You get that?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, Mr. Holland, you've given me the opportunity to coach, right? And I bring two different perspectives. One from the workplace, which I cherish tremendously. I tell people that's what feeds my family. That's why I care so much.
Right.
But I do have a safe haven after school. You've given me the opportunity to coach our kids too. And one of the things that I try to teach our young kids, our young student athletes, is the first thing we talk about in any practice that I run. I bring up the acronym that we use because I got to show them how it's used on my baseball field, in the work ethic, at practice, how you believe. And you understand that our acronym is family, focus, attitude, mentorship, integrity, legacy, and you. I had a conversation with a young lady yesterday as I was getting my Blade Bonanza tickets, and her mom asked me, hey, how come you don't coach our kids? I said, I'm always coaching. I said, but one of the things is what's difficult today is trying to teach our young students, athletes, and our regular students is to understand what family means.
Right.
And one of the things that I try to bring to our kids is with family, the F is focus. Wherever you're at, you have to pay attention and stay in that moment. That's a focus. But I want to present it to you from the coaching philosophy from outside of school, because, as our kids today, they feel like they're being overworked we're not even giving them a chance to release some of that stress or anxiety. And I can't wait to go back to present what family looks like for them, in the sports atmosphere.
Right.
I told my son, the focus is you got to stay in where you're at. The attitude you got to have for oneself, but know how to differentiate it. Not take it where you're offending anybody, but your attitude has to be powerful as a leader. The mentorship is how you mentor the person next to you, how I mentor you. Don't neglect what they're trying to learn. Teach them how to earn that and grow with that. The integrity is you got to put into work before you ask somebody else to do it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the legacy, what do you want people to remember you by? Because when you hear family, all of that, the last acronym is why. That's you. So when you go back and look at family, all those things that we talked about, can you look at yourself and say, you utilize all that stuff in the right way? And that, my friend, makes you a winner.
Yeah.
You get that?
Absolutely.
And that's what kids don't understand. And that's why, to me, that's a foundation of what family stands for.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. You know that. We've talked about this stuff before. I think one of the most critical things I think about what you just said is that you component. When you look in the mirror, you should see your family when you look in the mirror. When I'm wearing, let's see, what does the shirt say? I'm wearing a long sleeve EBHS Blade Family shirt on a Sunday. So when I look in the mirror, I see East High, but I also see, my kids, my wife, and I hope that our kids, when they look in the mirror, see Blade and the family and recognize that they're part of something that's really cool. So I appreciate what you're saying here.
Yeah, and I don't think people understand that. I tell them, I said, when you hear the East Side, nobody knows Highland or Foothill or Miramonte. Everybody knows East Lakeshore High School.
Right.
You get that. So that's why I said, it's such a fun and unique time to understand that what we're in. I tell people, I'm glad that I'm in the system right now because I'm learning so much. I'm shifting what one needs to learn. They always say you can't teach a old dog new tricks. But in this situation, if you want to survive, you got to adjust and you got to make adjustments as you go, just like on the in the classroom and on the field.
Well, it's the thing, and I thought about that too. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, but an old dog got to eat. So I think we're all learning and adapting and making it work the best that we can.
Right.
I know you've been working hard. You always do. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Gonzalez calls himself a grinder because he's always working to get the job done. And it's just, true. And I think a lot of us are grinding right now just to learn how to do the job that we're doing. So.
Right. And trying to learn, trying to understand people. I say, hey, anxiety is a good piece of mind because it teaches you not to be comfort.
Right.
Don't be content.
Right.
The anxiety of growing is part of becoming successful.
Right.
You get that?
Yeah.
And that's some of the things that, I am trying to learn so much, in a short period of time. But I want to take what has validation by listening to people that I work with, the people that I connect with.
Right.
But most importantly, the students.
Yeah,
they may not have the support that we have, but that's what makes it fun to go to work every day.
Oh, absolutely.
If you can help one person, that you've done your job.
Yeah. I used to tell my students at the end of every year that if I felt like I was doing my job right, if I was learning from them too. They were making me better at what I was doing. And I feel like that's really going on this year. So.
Yeah.
Now,
hey, I was listening to the questions, and you kind of open up not Pandora's box, but memory lane.
Sure.
And I mentioned one teacher here, and I think most people would look at me and they say, "Yeah, he's a wrestler." I hear that all the time, right? I got funny ears, but I got the old wrestler cauliflower ears. But there's a story that you just kind of brought to me that I thought was so funny. I didn't think that you would be able to open up some more things, but when we get deep in this, I want to share something.
Yeah, share it.
I talked about some of my other mentors besides Mr. Vasquez. There's a coach that I mentioned, Coach Joe Dominguez. He was a basketball guy.
Right.
And those of you who know me, I'm only like 5'3". I'm under 5'4". But if you knew me, I'm a Goliath. I got a big heart.
Right.
And I always thought I can outplay and outwork anybody. That's true still today. I don't think anybody will ever outwork me. And I challenge anybody to that. But what I tell people is this. I go, it's funny that we're here talking and you just opened up a different avenue for me. And, it's kind of a inside joke. When I remember conditioning my freshman year. I played with Anthony Jefferson. East High basketball, that's why kids went there because it was totally different. Yeah. And, growing up playing basketball and all the other sports to kill time, to keep us out of trouble, I was a pretty good point guard. If anybody knows that, as an athlete, I'm not putting I'm not putting myself out there. I love challenging kids, but I remember because, during basketball at PE, we would always do pickups 3-on-3,
Mm-hmm.
and I always had Byron Young, all these different guys. And, I was a ball handler. And I remember when basketball conditioning began, I was out there. Mr. Dominguez looks at me. He goes, "What you doing here?" You got to remember, I was in his Marine fitness class. He goes,
Right.
"No, Tootie." He goes, "Tootie, no, this ain't your sport." I remember him walking me to the small wrestling room, which was like a C train or whatever back then, before the modernization.
Uh-huh. He
He walked me in there, introduced me to Mr. Coach Rudy Gonzalez, says, "This is where you belong. You're not a basketball player."
Wow.
That was my first year ever wrestling, and I lettered varsity for 4 years.
Wow. You've never told me that story.
Like I said, I got too many. You just got to kind of move up.
Well, I know everybody does. That's part of this. I'll talk to them, and like I said, they don't share, anything that's inappropriate. Obviously, this is a good podcast. I need our students to hear it and be inspired by it. But everyone always says they've got a ton of stories that they wish they could share, and we try to keep this podcast to a half an hour. So
sure, okay, I got you.
But usually, though, I know so far at least I've known everyone pretty well, and I've at least heard the stories before, or heard of the stories before. But that one, you've never shared that with me before. That's cool.
Hey, but you know what? There's a funny part to that. Let me tell you. I laugh today and I tease him all the time because he works with us. Is his son Joe? I'm sorry, James.
Yeah.
James Dominguez works with us.
Yeah, James
I tease
will be
people
either next week or the week after. He's coming up. He graduated a year after you. So,
right.
Yeah, I think he's class 89. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's 89. He'll never tell you this, but this is until this day, 33 years later, 36 years later, when I started there, I can go back and say, "James, the only reason why you played is because your daddy was there. I was going to take your spot." That's a running joke. He knows. I love James. He's like a little brother. But I think, and everybody will tell you, because that's part of the family legacy. You got to talk crap once in a while.
Right.
So, and that's what we build there, character and the integrity.
Well,
but I say it today, everyone will tell you, "Yeah, you lucky your daddy was there. If not, Art Gonzalez would have been the point guard." And I'm going to run with that till I retire. Remember that.
I'm good with that now. It's interesting because I could just see if somebody took a kid who wanted to go out for basketball and walked into the wrestling room now. I'm liable to get a phone call from a parent about that. It's it's that mentorship component back then. That's something else. And but he, Coach Dominguez knew. He was in touch and in tune with kids and their skill sets and stuff. So
yeah, and as a kid growing up, you're thinking, "Man, who is this guy?" But when you look at his record so many years later, you go, "Man, he knew something." But
he knew something. That's right.
Yeah, with all due respect, though, he knew my heart belonged there.
Right.
He knew that, he knew I was a neighborhood kid, not the height, but he knew I had heart. And, again, do I have any regrets? Heck no.
No, I know you don't have any regrets. Yeah, you've already said that in this conversation, and I knew before we started talking here. But it's fun to hear those stories about East High athletics. A lot of schools in town want their athletics programs to revolve around football. And for a long stretch of time, half century or more, at our place, it revolved around basketball. So
correct. Yeah, and that's why I said, the tradition today, I don't know. I can tell you, kids are getting bigger, faster, stronger.
Right.
In today's era, and mechanically and physically, we're trying to get back to the old era because you got a lot of coaches that are coaching in college at my age,
right?
And they're raising that productivity of playing 2-3 sports. So when you hear recruiters and college coaches now, they want kids to play different sports.
Yeah.
But our kids are so locked in because the academies of today's time has really, shifted.
Yeah.
The way kids are thinking, they're stuck playing one sport all year round.
Yeah. parents too. Parents feel like if their kid isn't working on that sport year round, they're falling behind.
Yeah. And, athletes today are making 100 millions. Back then, they were only making 100,000.
Right.
So,
and it's sad too, just in you talking, I mean, if you didn't have that experience with playing pickup ball and stuff, that's a whole group of kids you may have never had a good, positive relationship with in high school. You may not ever know those guys. But
right.
because you had some basketball, some desire to play basketball, you knew some basketball players, baseball, football. You had a pretty well-rounded experience.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was a little different. Most people don't know, but I was supposed to go to Highland High School. Which I would have been a 4-time or a 3-time Valley champion probably, or runner-up. But I don't know. It's just, again, my mom and dad said, nope, you're going to East High, because I know if you go to Foothill or Highland, you're going to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. So they shifted. They got me away from the kids that I grew up with. And, at that time, not many people know, but we used to bus students from Rosedale area.
Right.
And my best friend in high school, which is my best friend still, we're 30-something years later, we're still like brothers. We still communicate, and he was from Rosedale. I was just a neighborhood kid off of Potomac, went to Mount Vernon and Sierra, and went to East High. And here's a kid who comes from a middle-class background. So that's why I tell kids today, color has no object. It's the type of person you are, and that's what East High brought to me, understanding different cultures.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, you got your eyes opened a little bit.
Yes, I did. But I'll tell you, again, like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world, and today we still have that, and I believe that one of the things that you bring to the table, as well as the people before you, is why you hire those who graduated from there, because they understand the history and the culture and the family dynamics of East Batesville High School.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, I'll tell you, we can go on if we just hit little details. But the reality is I'm excited, knowing that your kids are there. Your wife's an alumnus out of East High. Mm-hmm. And, you're choosing to have your kids go there. So
of course.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience before we wrap up the phone call?
Well, I just want to share with everybody that, I want to thank you, Mr. Holland, for giving me a few minutes to be able to share out my memories and the influence. And I want to thank East High for allowing me to go into their doors and create a productive citizen.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that there's not enough time and money in the world to give back. But I believe, with my integrity and my work, I will do the best to help, those today and those to come and those in the future, But that's, hey, I'm there, I'm looking to retire from there, People say, how long you been there? I said, as a student or a worker? I said, I've never left East High. So it's hard to say. Yeah. But I will tell you, I want to leave you with this little memory. As we're talking, you're making me think, and my head's blowing up. I got a story to share, too. This will be the last one.
Okay.
This is not from sports and anything else. This is just from the job.
Okay.
Okay. Those of you who don't know me, I've had 20-plus years in education, and about 3 years ago, no, I would say 2 years ago, this young lady's a junior today. But anyway, as you know, when we start school, we separate because in one area we work in the Career Center to work on emergency schedules.
Right.
Or enroll new students.
Right.
But I remember one of my counselors today who's with us, not here in this podcast, but works with us, is Gladys Baez, Miss Baez, who was hired from Marvin. She was sitting there with me because, I'm kind of showing her the ropes at East High. And this young lady, this student comes to me as I'm talking to Miss Baez on how we're going to set this up. And she goes, hey, are you Mr. Gonzalez? And I say, yes, baby. Why? She goes, my grandma knows you. And I thought about that, and I go, oh, my God, Now we talk about grandma. So I was so excited to come home and tell my wife that. And I said, baby, I think I'm getting close to retirement. She was, why is that? I said, because when the next kid comes to me and they say their great grandma knows me, it's time to retire.
Yeah, that's it, huh?
So that was a memory from a different perspective. And I go, wow.
That's awesome.
I thought it was great, though, and that's awesome. What we call family tradition.
Yeah, absolutely. Down through the generations. I've got my my first group of kids now from when I was a police officer at the school are now arriving. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting.
That is. Yeah. No, but it's good. Again, just want you guys all to know that, again, I love East High. I love you. I love everybody.
Love you back, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you do, Art. I appreciate you.
Hey, well, I ain't done yet, so I know you appreciate that, but
yes,
there's always more to bring.
Trust me, I know, and I'm glad you're not done. I need you for a while. That's for sure.
No, we're good.
All right,
Mr. Holland, thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. I'm going to hit the stop button.
You got it.
All right. And I hope you enjoyed that awesome conversation with Mr. Gonzalez. Like I said, we couldn't do the things around East that we're able to do without Mr. Gonzalez and all the people we have in our family that operate just like he does with our kids. Absolutely vital part of what we do. Hey, listen, the Blake Family Reunion is my labor of love, but I'm doing it to make sure that we're able to raise a little bit of scholarship money for a principal scholarship for both graduating seniors and hopefully to also send some of our students to some summer programs so that they can have enrichment opportunities, make our community a little bit better every day. So if you can, please reach out to our finance office and let them know you want to donate to the principal scholarship. I hope you enjoyed listening to Mr. Gonzalez's story and our conversations. I know I did. And we'll be back at you next week with another episode of the Blade Family Reunion. As always, I'm Leo Holland, the principal. I love you guys. I love East Bakersfield, and go Blades.